Like, so John, I hear that you guys have some new 24 gig radios coming out.
We do. Mike, thanks for the opportunity to participate in the video. We're actually super excited about not only just the 24 gig model, but this is actually an entire family of products. Trango has been making microwave radios for the past 8 or 9 years, and we're moving now on to our 4th generation radio. So,
Trango was one of the first vendors to really break the legacy incumbent, $80,000 radios.
Yes.
Weren't you guys?
Yes. Yeah, that was a period of time when technology was changing very quickly, and modem availability, that type of technology was changing, and we've always been one of the first companies to embrace something new and build products around it. So we're just continuing that today with going into our 4th generation.
Okay. So what is different on your 4th generation here?
So with the new radio model, so I guess the biggest changes now can be categorized into just a few areas. One of them is we're going to very high modulation. So this radio is 4096 QAM versus our current model, which is 1024 QAM. So we're going, originally we started at 256, it was the max, then 1024, now we're going to 4096. The second thing that's changing with the new radio platform is the channel width. So this is a wideband radio. In 24 gigahertz, we can actually go to a very wide channel up to 120 megahertz.
Okay.
In the license band, the widest license band available in the US is 80 megahertz, so we fully support an 80 megahertz.
Okay. Okay. So we have 120 megahertz at 4096 QAM.
Mm-hmm.
What does that end up?
That's a
bits over the wire?
gigabit. That's over a gigabit actually.
Okay.
So the radios fully support gigabit speeds and beyond. And I'll just kind of give you a quick overview of the product, right?
Sure.
So this one here, this is the Strata Pro. This is a 24 gigahertz radio. It's 24 gigahertz is an unlicensed band, and this particular model here is a single carrier radio. So by single carrier, meaning there's one modem active, and on that single modem we can do a full gigabit. This particular radio here is a pretty small form factor. It's obviously very small. It's 8.5 inches wide.
Yes, that's the smallest 24 gig radio.
Yeah,
that I've seen.
It's definitely the smallest one on the market. It's also the highest capacity one on the market. And it's part of a family. So this is the single modem version, and I don't have one here with me today, but there's also a dual modem or dual carrier XPIC version, which is just twice the size of this. It has 2 integrated antennas in it, and that is a 2 gigabit full duplex radio.
Okay.
So I'm pretty sure, I am sure we're the only ones doing anything like that in that type of capacity.
Yeah, I'm not aware of anyone at 24 gig going over 1, much less going up to 2. Now on that, are those 2 independent radios just with a common mount, or is that
it's two integrated modems inside the same housing?
Okay.
So the radio portion itself in the dual modem version is the same. What makes the unit bigger is the antennas to have the XPIC. Because remember, with 24 gigahertz, it's we're using it's a cross-polarized radio, so we're transmitting on one polarity, we're receiving on the other polarity. With the XPIC design, you have 2 opposing polarity antennas to achieve that.
Okay.
And so that's the dual carrier model. And then there's a third model in the same family, which is a slip-fit dish style radio. So you can put a 1 foot, a 2 foot, a 3 foot antenna to extend the range.
And then that's what you've traditionally made.
Right. Yeah, this is the first integrated flat panel 24 gigahertz antenna on the market.
Okay.
It's a 31 dBi antenna. The range, this is really designed for small cell applications or fiber extension projects, enterprise customers needing high bandwidth. Just like on our current 24 gigahertz product, you can change the channel width, so you don't need to use a 120 megahertz channel or an 80 megahertz channel. you can slice this thing down to very narrow channels. 24 gigahertz is a relatively clean spectrum. It's a clean part of the spectrum because it's used for point-to-point primarily, and it's a low-power radio, narrow beams, so it doesn't have the same interference problems that you would have with 5 gigahertz.
Okay. And so then, obviously at the bottom you've got the B and C connector for alignment purposes.
Right.
And then what's this big fancy white thing we have hanging off the side here?
Okay, this is a port cover, similar to the port cover design we've used on a lot of our radios in the past. But the way this works is you feed your cable or multiple cables up through this fitting, and then you can see the ports here, where there's actually 4 traffic ports. 3 of them are SFP, 1 is copper.
And I thank you 3 times.
Okay, great. Well, we've always had SFPs in all of our licensed radios, and we're just putting more and more of them in nowadays. The RJ45 here is also a PoE port. This is running a standard PoE, 48 volts. These 2 SFP slots are for Gig E. They're 1 gigabit ports, and then the last one is actually a 2.5 gig port.
Okay. And I see a green connector. Is that for doing raw DC input into
this is a direct power, so you can run a direct DC, you can run dual direct DC for redundant power supplies. So if you're not using PoE at all, you're not using the standard Ethernet port, you just want to run fiber, whether it's multi-mode or single mode fiber, and you just want to run DC power, you run into that green connector.
I think at some vendors that are not embracing the future, and only having a single PoE port or whatever, there's people say, there's not enough space or this or that, it just costs too much to put all these things that I want on there, and here's a product that has everything that I want on there.
Yeah, we got something for everybody here.
And I see some other things. What other ports do we have on the bottom of that radio, and what do they do?
Well, you see a couple of USB ports, right?
Okay.
So this is the first time we put a USB port on a radio. The function of the standard size USB, that's actually a serial port.
Okay.
So we've done away with the old RS-232 serial ports, gone to USB. So if you need to go into the radio to get in some way other than the Ethernet port, you've got a USB port for that. Also, we're developing some apps that will help with alignment.
Okay.
That's why we wanted to just put a standard USB on there, because everybody has that and they can use it with their phone.
Okay.
So there's some future functionality that will be used for. The little mini USB is for hot standby. So this radio does support 1+1 hot standby.
Okay.
So if you have an active and a standby, so some of our customers tell us that's very important, that you have a standby solution. So this mini SFP this mini USB is for the communication link between 2 radios. So you have an active and a standby.
Okay. It's nice to see gone are the RS-232 ports or the RJ45s that are really RS-232 anyway. And,
right.
USB is so much easier to use today.
So anyway, in the 24 gig, there's, like I said, there's the 3 models, and I think one of the really exciting aspects of this whole new product line is we're doing this in licensed as well. So exact same form factor of a radio, but designed for license bands going into 18, 11, 23, 6 gigahertz. And with those bands, one of the big advantages is much more transmit power. In fact, with the new radios, these new radios from Trango, we're able to go up to very high transmit power at maximum modulation. So just as an example, at 4096 QAM, we can go up as high as plus 25 dBm.
That is very strong for 4096.
Right.
I know that when I'm talking to other operators, and if I can get them to understand licensed link budgeting at all. If there's look for, well, this even applies to unlicensed. They look for, what's the maximum a radio will transmit it at? 21 dB, 30 dB, and it's like, well, that's at the lowest modulation. Do you like your radio is performing like junk when it's the lowest modulation? You want it to be hot at the high modulation. Maintain high performance as long as possible.
Right. The reason why normally or traditionally on a radio, as you go to the higher modulations, you have to turn down the power for it to work right, is because there's distortions that come along with high power, and high modulation has to have no distortion at all. So what's changed now is in the RF section of this radio, we have something called adaptive digital predistortion, which mitigates the distortion and allows us to crank up that transmit power. And that's going to improve your link budget, it's going to improve your link distances, it's going to allow you to reduce the antenna size. So definitely on top in terms of system gain.
It's good. It's good. Yeah. I don't know how many times that people say something. A radio just can't get any better than what we are now. And within 2 years, someone this time it's Trango just smashes the
Well, we'll be on top again, and hopefully that'll last a long time. And we're very excited about the product platform. It's going to be around a long time. We'll be glad to be working with all the ISPs as they're looking for higher capacity solutions. 1 gig, 2 gig, single carrier, dual carrier, a lot of flexibility in the frequency as well. So, for example, we can do 2 channels at 11 gigahertz or single channel XPIC using both polarities to really aggregate lots and lots of bandwidth.
What's a reasonable expectation for a link distance? Obviously, if you're in Arizona or if you're in Illinois, there's going to be a significant difference as to the rain. But at the high modulation, although now with a high output power as well, what can one expect for a full modulation link?
Well, that is the answer to that question is long, but I'll shorten it up. And of course, it depends on the frequency as well. So we'll first talk about 24 gigahertz. 24 gigahertz is this unlicensed band which has very strict transmit power regulations. So, and then this particular radio that I'm showing here has a pretty small antenna. But at 4096 QAM, you can expect full performance up to about a half a mile. Okay, so then you can go much farther than that at the lower modulations. Going to the antennas with the 1 foot, the 2 foot, the 3 foot antennas, it's really just a factor of the modulation level, the range region, as you mentioned. We have customers that have links in 24 gig as long as 6 miles, but 24 gig is really your short distance solution. It's license free, which is great. We're usually telling people a couple miles is what you want to plan for 24. If you go on beyond that, you really should be looking at licensed. Licensed band, 11 gigahertz is a good example. That's definitely the most popular frequency band in the United States and in a lot of places in the world. It propagates really well. You can use 2 foot antennas. We have a lot of customers going 10, 15 miles, 20 miles. We have customers going 50 miles. It just depends on the line of sight is a big part of it.
Sure.
If you have access to mountaintops, that helps a lot.
Sure. Yeah. In my area, it is so popular. There aren't any channels available to be had. I've even went as extreme as if I get the super high performance Andrews dish, in 8 foot, can I make the link? And it's like, nope, there's still too many interferers.
That's it's becoming more of an issue. Spectrum availability. And that's one of the reasons why having a radio which has that ability to, ability to operate on not only a single XPIC channel, but 2 different channels within the 11 gig band, and possibly even different size. A 40 megahertz channel and an 80 megahertz channel, or whatever it might be. So we are able to support a lot of flexibility. As 11 gigahertz gets more crowded, 18 gigahertz is a really good alternative, and with going to higher transmit power, like 25 dBm at 4096 QAM, that enables really good link distances. Not as good as 11, but for 4, 5, 6 miles at 18 gig is definitely doable.
That sounds about where I'm at. I can't get 11, and the 24s are too short. 23 is still too short.
Yeah.
So,
well, 6 is popular as well. You can do 6 with 3-foot antennas.
All right. Well, I'm sure lots of people look forward to this. I certainly embrace every manufacturer breaking whatever barriers the industry has.
Okay.
So I'm glad to see this out here.
All right. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.